So, let me first introduce you to a game. This game is pretty simple, so there are the numbers from 1 up to 9. And the aim of the game is that you get 3 numbers that add up to 15. Okay, so this is for 2 players, and we're just going to take turns taking numbers. And try and get 3 numbers that add up to 15. Very simple. Okay, let's try playing. Here's me and here's you. Okay, so let's say I start with the number 5. Nice middle number. Okay, what do you choose? Let's just say you pick 7. Okay, why not? Lucky number. Now I'm going to pick 8. Now you'll notice that if you do not pick 2, then I will pick 2 the next turn, and then I will get 5, 2, and 8, which add up to 15, and I would win. Therefore, you must pick the number 2 to prevent me from winning. Right, so now you have 2 and 7, which means that if you get 6, then you will also get 3 numbers that add up to 15, so that means I must take the number 6. Now, you notice that if I get a 4, then I will have 4, 5, and 6, which means I would get 3 numbers that add up to 15, so again, it means that you must take the number 4. However, here I take the number 1, and you now realize that I got 6, 8, and 1, which add up to 15, and so now I've won. Okay, so the question is, who wins this game? Or perhaps is it always a draw? Okay, so this is a question for you, and we'll see. So just first step you should be doing to try and solve these kind of problems is to experiment. Right, so just try playing against yourself or someone else. See if you can find the optimal strategy for both players, and also try and figure out who can always win. And also see if you can try and notice, does this game feel familiar? So just think about those few questions. You may choose to stop the video and think about that yourself, otherwise I'll move on to the solution. Right, so this game is always a draw. Okay, so now also, so that's the answer to like kind of the first 3 bullet points from before. Now what about the last one? What is this game similar to? Well, actually, this is a game is actually basically exactly the same as a game you've definitely seen before. Tic-tac-toe. Yes, these 2 games are actually pretty much the same, and you may have already realized that by now. There are 9 numbers, there are 9 squares. You have to try and get 3 numbers to add up to 15, you have to try and get 3 numbers that go in a row. And of course, the game is always a draw if both players play optimally. Right, so how do these relate? Like, do these have any relationships, or is it just perhaps a coincidence? Or like, how do we prove that these 2 are actually the same game? Well, it is actually very simple. What we have to do is just simply draw up the square. Right, it's quite simple, but pretty hard to find. And you may notice that this is a magic square. And of course, a magic square has every single diagonal, column, and row adding up to 15. And none of the other numbers actually add up to 15. So all the rows, column, diagonals, so that's the numbers that add up to 15, and of course, in our original game, we needed 3 numbers that add up to 15. So this is simply a direct correspondence to the game of tic-tac-toe. Right, so now we want to be moving on to some further exploration, because I've basically already told you the answer to this game. So, but there is a lot more to explore, trust me. Okay, so I pretty much ranked these in order of difficulty of figuring out how these work. So the first one is what list of numbers and sum correspond to a 4x4 grid? So if you had a 4x4 grid of numbers, so like if you had like a 4x4 form of tic-tac-toe, so like where we need to connect 4 numbers to try and win, how would this correspond to? So like what numbers would you use to get to the 4x4 grid? And how would the numbers correspond to each of the positions in the grid? Next is, what happens if we add the number 10? Right, so if we add the number 10, like, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, if we added the number 10, where would it go? Where would it go in the square? And finally, what would happen if, instead of having the numbers add up to 15, what if we wanted them to add up to 16? How would the grid change? These are all very interesting questions and all not very easy. I would recommend you have a try, and of course you can also do stuff, for example, to extend these. So instead of 4x4 grid, what about a 5x5, 6x6, like an n by n grid? What about not even a grid, perhaps a rectangle, right? And also perhaps getting like not only n in a row, perhaps you could get a different number of rows. So if you had like a 5x5 grid and you were trying to get 4 in a row, what would that correspond to? Okay, and now what happens if we add 10? Well, we don't have to just add the number 10. We can also add a different number like 11, 12. Maybe we could add a bunch of numbers. Maybe we could even add 0 or negative numbers, or even fractional numbers. Anything could work. Just try it out yourself. And finally, what else if we add up? Want them to add to 16? Of course, you can extend that. What if they're 17, 14? And you can also combine the last two together. So if you change the list of numbers, and if you also change the sum that you need to add them up to. So these are some very interesting questions to explore on this topic. I recommend having gone them yourself, see how far you can get with your exploration. I might have a sequel to this video. So I'll have like a further episode where I explore into some of the stuff. And otherwise, I think I'll see you in the next video.